York is undoubtedly the best example of a medieval city in England and is stunningly beautiful. In this video, we've pulled together many of the fun historic attractions and sites you'll not want to miss when you visit. Join us as we walk the ancient cobbled streets and tell you about some of the history along the way. We'll climb the city walls, go in search of highwaymen, visit medieval Georgian and Victorian buildings and a whole lot more. I really don't know how we're going to fit it all in. If you look on a map, you can see how the imposing city walls, or bar walls as some call them, enclose and protect York. The green sections roughly show you the areas where you can walk tall. It's a great way to get your bearings when first arriving and offers incredible views across most of the city, and it's where you can snap your best photos of York Minster. If you walk all the fortifications, it will take you about 2 hours in total. There are 3 miles of elevated walkways to enjoy. It's worth noting that due to the narrow paths and no safety rails in sections, they sometimes close the walkways due to adverse weather. This happened on one of the days of our trip due to a very cold, icy night. The majority of the walls were built in the 13th century of limestone. The tops were repaired 150 years ago so people could walk safely on them. The original Roman walls are mostly hidden below the current ones. It's a great, free, fun thing to do, open from 8 AM until dusk daily. To get that great shot of the Minster, you need to head to this section of the walls. It was a bit gloomy when we filmed, but you get the idea. As you walk, you'll come across the bars of the city, not to be confused with the local pubs, of which there are many. All 4 bars or gates are retained here in York. We'll see each of them during the video. This is Bootham Bar, dating from the 11th century. Most is now 14th century when it was heightened to add the portcullis. You can walk inside the gate and still see this, although it doesn't work anymore. Some form of city gateway has stood here since Roman times. Speaking of the Romans, a few minutes walk away are a couple of the many reminders that this was once a Roman city from 71 AD to around 400 AD. In fact, in the shadow of York Minster is a statue of Constantine the Great, who was proclaimed Emperor of Rome right here in York. Opposite is a Roman column found in 1969 under the south transept in York Minster. York Minster is a must on your trip, and we have done a separate video with a full tour of this amazing cathedral, link top right now or at the end. For information on visiting, check out this website. You do need to book in advance for a time slot, it's a popular attraction. So one thing to note is that during January and February, quite a large number of attractions actually close down. They use that time sort of preservation and cleaning and things like that, so do check before you come. Also, Monday and Tuesday seems to be the day that a lot of attractions close as well. I mean, they're open, you know, from Wednesday through to Sunday, and Monday and Tuesday seems to be that day that they need to have some time off. So bear that in mind as well when you're booking your trip. Whilst we're in the area of the Minster, walk around the rear of the cathedral, the east side, to see St William's College on College Street. It was founded in 1460 and used to be the home of up to 23 priests associated with the Minster. Part of it may even be 13th century. Today, the street-level properties around the college are sweet cafes and shops with some outdoor seating. Continue around the Minster onto Chapter House Street, and there's the National Trust property, the Treasurer's House. It was built over a Roman road and has some spooky tales to tell from inside the gorgeous townhouse. 13 period rooms showcase the collection amassed by Frank Green, who, when he left the house to the National Trust, stipulated everything must remain as he intended, or he would be back to haunt them. Well, a few things have moved for conservation, and unexplained happenings have occurred as a result. Possibly Frank is upset and is following through with his threat. A few streets away you can tick off the second of the city bars, Monk Bar. The strongest and tallest of the 4 bars, the first 3 floors are 14th century and the 4th 15th century. The portcullis worked until 1970. Rooms in the turrets could hold prisoners. What I like is the city puts up great information boards so you can find out a little as you explore. It's also the home of the Richard III experience, but that's been closed since the start of COVID. Nearly every street in York is awash with medieval, Tudor, Edwardian or Victorian buildings, and every now and again you come across something particularly interesting. Walking down Fosgate, you can easily miss a passage that will take you through to the incredible Merchants' Hall. If you come via Piccadilly, then you can't miss it. The hall was built between 1357 and 61 and served a number of purposes as a guild for business and social and charitable services. It's the largest timber-framed building in the UK, still in use for its original purpose. Once inside, the Undercroft has just the best timber-framed arch posts holding up the upper floors. The guild was created by a collective of merchants known as the Merchant Adventurers, who came together to combine their skills and contacts from various fields to invest in import and export. The wealth they amassed benefited others through charity. This has continued for 660 years. There is a chapel beside the Undercroft still used for worship today. This was attached to a charitable hospital and almshouse to look after the sick and poor of York in the Undercroft. Upstairs are various rooms full of fine furniture, silver and artwork. You can also see some lovely old paintings of historic York. I can recognise many of the streets, as they haven't really changed that much. This solid oak statue of Napoleon, carved from a single piece, was used to advertise snuff at a tobacconist. Apparently Napoleon loved the stuff. 3 were made, 1 for London, 1 for Leeds, and this famous one for York, outside in all weathers for 177 years, believed to be the only one left. This is the Governor's Parlour, a Georgian addition to the building. There is a lovely 16th century carved fireplace and curtains by William Morris. There are a couple of more modern stained glass windows, one depicting possibly Copenhagen Port and the other the River Ouse and York. The centrepiece is a lovely walnut dining table and 10 chairs. The Great Hall is where medieval merchants first gathered to conduct their business and to socialise. The chamber is very wide with another wonderful timber-framed roof. The green stall is for the governors. Some of the notable members of the guild were the Terrys and Rowntree families from the famous York chocolate makers, and George Hudson and George Lehman that brought the railway to York. As we're over this side of the city, let's take a 10-minute walk to another bar, Walmgate Bar. The most complete of all, and with its defensive barbican, portcullis and even the oak doors still intact. The stone archway dates back to the 12th century. The walled barbican is 14th century, and the original oak gates are 15th century. There is a little coffee shop in the turrets if you want to take a look inside and stop for a drink. Just a few streets away from here is a small gravestone you might be interested in. If you've ever heard the call "Stand and Deliver," then you'll know about Dick Turpin, the famous highwayman. Buried here in a small cemetery, his exploits were romanticised following his execution for horse theft. His real name was John Palmer. Moving on, Clifford Tower, when it's open, offers panoramic views over Old York. Even with the restoration work going on, it looks pretty impressive in the evening sun when we filmed there. It's almost all that remains of York Castle, built by William the Conqueror, then a timber keep. It burnt down during the 1190 horrific massacre of the Jews. It served as a prison and a royal mint in its time. Managed by English Heritage, check out their website for when it might open again. Right next door, another very popular attraction is the award-winning York Castle Museum. Booking in advance for time slots is advisable here. No filming is allowed inside, so please bear with me while I share some photos. The museum recreates periods covering 400 years in York's history. Hundreds of historic objects are on display, and characters in period costumes bring it all to life. The highlight of the museum is Kirkgate, a complete Victorian street from around 1870 to 1901. Even the shops and business names match those found in York during that time. The museum covers everything up to the swinging 60s, so you'll need at least 2 to 3 hours to see everything. I mentioned earlier about some attractions being closed on a Monday and a Tuesday, but I've noticed as well that a lot of places don't seem to open until 11 o'clock in the morning, and then they close by 4, with a last entry around sort of 2:30, 3 o'clock, so you need to bear that in mind. Possibly the finest Georgian townhouse in England is Fairfax House in Castlegate, just a few steps away from Clifford's Tower. This stunning property was once home to Charles Gregory Fairfax and his daughter Anne. Fairfax spared no expense in remodelling the house in the late 1700s with some of the finest details. It's been renovated by the York Civic Trust and is open to the public to tour the rooms and admire the exquisite furniture and the stucco ceilings. It was so good, in fact, that we've made a full separate guided tour of the house. You can catch this by the link top right now or wait until the end. Almost next door is the Van Gogh exhibition if you're looking to immerse yourself in this world-famous artist's work. Just around the corner from that is Coppergate and the Jorvik Viking Centre, where you can find out about this fascinating period in York's history. Jorvik was the name when they arrived and settled here in 800 AD. Excavations in the 1970s revealed the best collection of Viking buildings and artefacts in the world. This enabled them to open the centre and present in great detail what life was like in Viking York, with the sights, sounds and even the foul smells as you travel around the exhibits. The Viking folk in the exhibits are even likenesses based on the skulls they found. See some of the original excavations under the glass floor, and many of the Vikings' personal items that the oxygen-free moist soil protected for hundreds of years. It was a fascinating tour, very popular, and needs advance booking to avoid the queues.
If you're thinking of visiting a lot of attractions whilst you're here, then consider the York Pass. I'll put a link in the description. You can get those for 1, 2 or 3 days, and it bundles together the cost of a lot of attractions, gives you a bit of a discount. I think though at this time of year in January when I'm here, there are so many places that are closed on that list, it actually doesn't make good value for money to do it. So do check to make sure that you are going to get a saving before you take the York Pass.
Some say York has 365 pubs, one for every day of the year, and as you walk around it certainly appears like that. Many of these drinking holes are centuries old and look like they've come straight out of fairy tale movies. From local brews to modern craft beers or wine on the river terrace, you can't really go far wrong. Most have stories to tell, like the Golden Fleece, one of the earliest coaching houses in York, and with a resident ghost called One-Eyed Jack who roams the bar with a red cape and a pistol. It's right next door to York Gin, a new local award-winning distillery where you can sample before you buy. Opposite the Golden Fleece is York's most famous street, the Shambles. With its cobbled stone street and overhanging buildings, some close enough to shake hands with a neighbour on the other side, it's one of Europe's best kept medieval shopping areas. It's very busy during the day, as you can see, people jostling to have a look around and queues to get into shops like the Harry Potter store. With all this going on in the day, if you really want to get a good look at the buildings, then you need to come early or for a spooky feel at night. It's much quieter and you really can take it all in. So just for you, I got up early to walk around the Shambles. Getting its name from the word shammel means stall or benches where meat was displayed. This was once a butcher's street, purposely narrow to keep the sunlight out from spoiling the goods. Cuts of meat would have been served through open windows, joints swinging from the hooks that some of the buildings still have. The offal waste, bits of bones and blood would have been thrown into the street, and the rainwater would wash it away down the channel in the centre. It would have stunk and been pretty unpleasant. Luckily today you have the smell of fresh coffee, fudge, chocolate, bread and pastry treats. If you take the side street called Little Shambles, this will bring you into the vibrant Shambles Historic Market, which is open 9 to 5 every day, selling fruit and veg, meats and local craft items, along with clothes and food vans for you to stop and have a quick snack. Whitma Whatma Gate. This curiously named street is the shortest in York, around 9 metres long, very close to the Shambles. The name meaning not one thing or another. Viking names for streets was Garter, gate as we say it now. You'll see lots of streets across the city ending in gate. These were Viking street names. At the top of the Shambles is King's Square. It's where you'll often find street performers making the passers-by smile, but it's also home to the York chocolate story. 3 famous brand name families, Cravens, Terrys and Rowntrees, started production in York, and you can book a fun tour to find out where the chocolate comes from, the history of the companies, and some of the secrets behind the famous sweets like the chocolate orange and the Kit Kat. Let's talk about the Snickleways of York. They are small alleys or passageways, usually between streets, and the name Snickleway came from the book written in 1983 by Mark M. Jones. They are fun to explore and sometimes lead to an interesting find, like here at Barley Hall in the middle of a Snickleway. This medieval townhouse was once home to the Priors of Nostell and a Lord Mayor. Hidden by a more modern facade, it was restored in the 1980s and is now an attraction to visit, sadly closed during our time. But from the Snickelway, you can catch glimpses of the restored hall in all its glory through the glass windows.
If you'd like to see some of York on the River Ouse, then you can take a city cruise. It's about 45 minutes long, and there's a commentary on board as well. January, it doesn't really run very regularly, but in the summer, it'll be very busy with regular services. I'll put a link in the description.
For something just as relaxing as the river, take a walk to the Museum Gardens, named after the Yorkshire Museum that's in the heart of the grounds. Closed over the winter months this year due to COVID, it will open again in spring to showcase its exhibits from Roman, Viking and the medieval era. The many galleries will give you a great insight into Yorkshire life during these periods, with dazzling jewellery, Roman artefacts and even a mosaic floor, to name but a few. In the grounds, as you take a stroll for free, see the remains of St Mary's Abbey from the 11th century. This was one of the wealthiest and most powerful Benedictine monasteries in the country. The abbey estate would have covered the entire gardens. You can see the ruins of the nave and gateway, which would have been the main entrance. The Hospitium was part of the abbey in the medieval period. As its name suggests, it was a place of hospitality for merchants and guests not able to stay in the main abbey with the monks. You cannot visit inside unless you're planning a wedding, as it's now used as a venue for receptions. Also in the grounds is the best example of Roman remains still standing in York, the Multangular Tower. This 10-sided tower dates to the reign of Emperor Constantine in 300 AD. It was one of 8 similar defensive towers, this one overlooking the River Ouse, part of the Roman fortress. For art lovers, beside the Museum Gardens and Booth and Bar is York Art Gallery and Exhibition Square. See paintings from the 14th century to contemporary, prints, watercolours, drawings and ceramics. Tickets can be obtained here. Just off of Exhibition Square is the King's Manor. A building stood here in 1270, home to the abbots of St Mary's Abbey. Rebuilt in the 1500s, the building was visited by Henry VIII, Charles I and James I. Since 1965 it's been part of York University. You are able to visit inside, but not during our visit. Exhibition Square is one of the stops on the hop-on hop-off bus that runs around the city with a commentary. You can buy a day pass and jump on and off at numerous stops if you don't fancy walking to all the attractions. The railway is a huge part of York City. The first trains rolled through here in 1839, with a direct link to London in 1840. This reinvigorated the city and introduced the tourism that continues today. York is the proud home of the National Railway Museum, a wonderful free place to visit whether you're a train buff or not. Step inside and see some of the most historic and iconic locomotives of the past, along with more recent famous trains. Why not start with George and Robert Stephenson's original rocket, built in 1829, kick-starting the locomotive steam era. See the world's fastest steam train, the 1938 LNER Class A4 Mallard. For just a few minutes, this beautiful blue engine managed to power along the track at 126 miles an hour on a stretch of line south of Grantham. It still holds this record today. Climb on board the 1960s Shinkansen bullet train from Japan that started the high-speed train revolution. There are many other interesting and fascinating exhibits to keep you occupied for a few hours, cleverly displayed to bring out their best, like the Station Hall, platforms lined with historic royal carriages from monarchs past and present. There really is something for everyone here. Tickets, whilst free, are best booked online in advance to avoid the queues of this very popular museum. Have you noticed during the video the cat statues dotted around? Well, they've been placed on buildings for a few centuries to ward off vermin. Now you can take the York Cat Trail and go in search of them as you stroll the cobbled streets. There are over 20 to find. You can grab a cat map from outside York Glass in the Shambles or from this website. Good luck finding them all, as some are tricky to see. As we have been over here by the station and the National Railway Museum, let's head to the last of the bars, Micklegate Bar. The main entrance for anyone entering into the city from the south, it was probably the most important of the bars, and like the others would have originally had a barbican in front of it. Many monarchs passed through this gate, the lower portion dating from the 12th century, the top two floors the 14th century. The severed heads of traitors would have been displayed on spikes above this bar. York takes on a spooky atmosphere at night, and one of the best ways to see the sights and hear more gory stories about the city is to take a ghost tour. We booked the Mad Alice tour, 90 minutes of fun around the city, stopping at various places to find out tales of York's dark past and ghost stories and strange happenings. It's great for all the family and really enjoyable. Whilst there are hundreds of places to eat and drink, we opted for the birthplace of Guy Fawkes. He was born in York and in this house right next to York Minster, now a restaurant and hotel. The atmosphere and decor was right up our street, and the food, whilst a little pricey, was really delicious. Black pudding Scotch egg for starters, and then Guy Fawkes' famous steak pie was truly heartwarming on a cold night. You can get to York in 1 hour and 50 minutes from King's Cross and Pancras. Tickets are from around £25, and they do vary depending on the day that you travel and the time, and it can be quite expensive. You could also take National Express from the London terminals, and tickets start from around £18, but it will take you about 4 or 5 hours to get there using that service. The bells of York Minster are ringing out. Well, we've had a fantastic time here. I hope you've enjoyed all the attractions we've shown you and a little bit of history. We've got more like this on our channel, and we really would love you to subscribe and join us in the future. Give us a like, and if you've got other suggestions that we've missed, because I'm sure there are things we've missed, then give us a comment and share with our community. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.